last time on Alt+Shift+Nerd.
What's so special about this brain?
Learning and memory are engraved on the normal brain.
Smooth as a baby's bottom.
This brain has been drained. The memory has been removed. Like chalk erased from a blackboard.
Hello once again. Today we'll be examining how Vecna stole Eleven's powers in Stranger Things 3. Are you ready? Are you with us? Then let's dive right in, shall we? To best explain how Henry Creel, aka Peter Ballard, or Vecna, stole Eleven's powers in Stranger Things 3 for his worlds colliding scheme in Stranger Things 4, we'll have to go back to when Eleven thought she was being helped by an orderly named Peter Ballard. Back when Henry Creel was freshly declared dead and taken by Dr. Brenner for experimentation, apparently the good doctor discovered how to activate the very same or portion of psionic abilities in others. It would also be said that he found out what to look for in cultivating psychic potential in others, albeit children primarily. Once having this revelation firmly in his grasp, I think it's safe to say he uncovered what would biologically suppress such attributes. Perhaps it's a reverse engineering situation, though it still stands to reason this is more than possible once understanding how to activate and develop these types of capabilities. Brenner very well could. Also, given that emotions are shown to be highly connected to the use of psionic abilities in the Stranger Things universe. And what do emotions produce? You are correct. Chemicals. Biological fluids that interact with the synapses and signals to and from the brain through the nerves, affecting one's electromagnetic field around them. If you do your research, not only is there an electromagnetic field around your body, but organs found in the body have their own fields too. We could delve into such amazing things another time, though for now the point to make here is our very realistic effects emotions have on us physiologically. And this is the psuedo-science, or pseudo-science, although I like saying pseudo. This is the pseudo-science intermingled with proven science to create psychic abilities in the blueprints of the show's reality. Oh come on, pseudo is just so much more fun to say than pseudo. Pseudo sounds so formal. Pseudo up! Okay, bad Barney joke.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Moving on. The naming of the inhibitor device also offers clues as to its functioning, which I'll take a moment here to briefly explain before going on to what all this means for Eleven at the end of Stranger Things 3, impacting half of Stranger Things 4's season.
Papa calls it Soteria. It weakens me, attracts me.
Soteria was the name of a Greek goddess of safety, salvation, deliverance, and preservation from harm. Key phrasing here being preservation from harm, considering as soon as Peter Ballard had his Soteria inhibitor removed, he practically immediately went Cletus Cassidy and maximum carnage his way through Hawkins' lab. The tiny little thing that was the cause of so much trouble.
You knew something so small could cause so much trouble.
Could very well have been physiologically dampening any biochemistry that triggered or allowed access to psionic abilities altogether. It appears Dr. Brenner was all too correct to provide Henry such an implant. In retrospect, after Dr. Brenner informed Eleven that Henry doesn't just kill his targets, he consumes them.
When one kills, he doesn't simply kill. He consumes. He takes everything from his victims, everything they are and everything they ever will be. Their memories, their abilities.
Supposing that creature was capable of taking ideas directly from other people's brains and transferring them to its own.
Then, if the beast had absorbed your brains, it would have been as clever as you.
Much more so, because what it had taken from me would have been added to the learning that it already had.
There must have been some event where Henry killed that we haven't gotten to see, where Dr. Brenner witnessed this. Unless he figured out that Henry killed his family, excepting his father Victor, and Henry explained a bit about his powers to Brenner before he began not to trust the doctor. He did, in fact, explain some things to Nancy, so why not Dr. Brenner? He explained some things to Eleven, so why not Dr. Brenner before he realized he couldn't trust him anymore? Either way, I feel that we can all agree planting the Soteria Inhibitor within Henry 001 was necessary and definitely lived up to the naming to preserve from harm. Another clue to support this show's rationale behind psionic workings to be able to activate and deactivate biochemistry in an individual for accessing psionic capabilities comes from the Russians. We touch on this in another video of ours where we point out a Rick and Morty Easter egg utilizing a green fluid to power a massive portal gun under Hawkins that keeps the portal open. This fluid has crates upon crates upon crates stored in the underground Russian facility where they were found by some of the Team Hawkins during an infiltration in Stranger Things 3. Now, Henry said in Stranger Things 4 that he didn't have the power to open a portal, yet saw that Eleven could. He wanted that power, which he could gain by consuming her as he does all of his victims. If you can gain memories and knowledge in such an absorption, then it stands to reason abilities can be understood through this type of osmosis as well. Even science has understood that experience is stored in the physical body and cells maintain an understanding of their functions and processes in a working psychic, unspoken hive mind system. You want to lift your arm or move your leg? It is understood within every cell in your body that is involved in such a dynamic motion. You don't have to speak this or think this. You simply do this, and all of your cells, muscles, nerves, molecules, every fiber of your being work together synergetically to make it happen in a type of understanding, a psychic connection. I suppose, then, that Henry simply is aware of how to transfer such information from his targets. This is a collective action taking place within several layers, some of which are physical. So, if the Russians have taken what was left behind and researched at the old Hawkins lab prior to their covert moving into it and taking it over, then it stands to reason they had some working knowledge of what we have been discussing here and tapped into the physical biochemistry to extract into whatever green goo fuels their massive portal engine in Stranger Things 3. If they can make this type of extraction, then so can Henry. How does Henry as Vecna, who was banished to the Upside Down and cannot create portals, do this? Well, there's no coincidence that the Russians happen to produce such a biochemical liquid and use it in combination with a conversion engine to generate an energy beam that held open a portal to the Upside Down after it was closed by Eleven in Stranger Things 2's conclusion. With that, Vecna found the means by which to connect once more with the Hawkins layer of reality beyond the Upside Down, in order to psychically find someone to manipulate into executing a new plan. This is when he psychically approached Billy and used him to gain access to chemicals, along with the rats that began Vecna's experiments with flesh and chemicals, bioengineering what would later become a collective flesh golem of sorts that served not only as a physical weapon of attack on a large scale, but also as the injector for implanting a portion of itself, and thusly Vecna, into Eleven, which we do see happening toward the end of Stranger Things 3 at the Battle of Starcourt Mall. Are you having a stressful day of babysitting? Is it exhausting and wearing you out, and where you don't feel like making any dinner for the night? Well then, Big Kahuna, just sit back and relax. So just give us a call. Let us hand toss a fresh Sunnyside pizza just for you. Remember, Surfer Boy Pizza. And when we deliver to you, we'll offer our signature honks.
That was fast. 30 minutes or less.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
It's time. I got it. Don't be fooled. If you don't hear our honks, then it's not us.
Hello there.
And remember, we deliver anywhere, not just California, where our main headquarters can be found. Using the rats initially as test subjects, Vecna experimented with mixtures of physical components found within fertilizers and organic creatures, such as the rats we see, building up to humans. It is also of note here that Vecna saw humans as a specific type of pest, much like we view rats and mice as pests. And so he went from rats to humans, basically. We didn't see any other animals or transitions between the two. And maybe it's because they have a similar organic compound and the basic components that you need biologically. But the point is, yeah, that's why it starts out with rats instead of something else, because they're common, there's a lot of them, and he views us as pests as well. He manipulated them psychically into physically being his hands, eyes, and ears outside of the Upside Down until he could concoct the appropriate chemical reactions to break down organisms into something he could reshape and repurpose. This is what was happening when all the rats and mice melted into a goo that conjoined and mixed together. Then humans, parading into a warehouse to decompose together, collectively combined to create this remote-controlled flesh monster that served as his physical counterpart in the Hawkins reality. This endeavor of the Mind Flayer, Vecna, served two goals. The first being to collect the necessary physical ingredients within Eleven to take her powers, while also leaving behind traces of the respective elements within her, to hinder her access of the psychological allowance of her psychic abilities. This would disrupt the cellular recognition of her cognitive processes for enacting such abilities beyond the typical non-psionic expressions. In other words, it would block access to parts of her that unite the mental and physical, mind and body, from working together in the usage of psychic powers. To be clear, this isn't a taking of the source of such powers, only learning the formula for them while cutting off access to that power source. It's like when you flip a light switch off. You are not cutting off access to all electricity, or even all electricity permanently, and will never be able to turn the lights on again. If you were to cut a wire that allows a light bulb to connect to an electric current to be able to turn on a light, you are not permanently unable to make a connection ever again. You simply have been hindered or blocked access to electricity or electric power in these examples. You simply need to find the means by which to repair the cut wire or manage to flip the light switch on again. You're not actually getting rid of the electricity at its source. You're not like taking down the power company, for example. Vecna could not, would not, kill Eleven until this extraction of her powers and blocking of it within her took place. That's when the secondary benefit or goal would kick in. If this monster would kill Eleven and her friends after the desired taking of her powers, then great. That would be the icing on the cake, as the mid-shift Earth expression goes. If he could not manage to kill her or anyone else he would desire to, or if his beast was defeated as it actually was, then he would still succeed and win in different terms. He still managed to rob Eleven of her abilities and gain access to them himself. The extraction point came when he managed to bite Eleven in the episode of Stranger Things 3, The Bite. Instead of pumping her with a poison or venom as a snake, or more appropriately, a spider, would, the opening into her body provided a doorway for a tiny creature to enter her. This creature was part of the Upside Down's hive mind, so it could be controlled by Vecna psychically also. Once inside her body, it had access to all the chemicals and bioelectric signals, cellular memory, etc. that it needed. It also secreted anything vital to create the blocking fluids or electromagnetic impulses to block L's abilities. It was a kind of probe and converter device. Organically speaking, very much akin to the Soteria that Renner created. While yes, the Hawkins gang managed to remove the creature, it still managed to do what it needed to do. It made the physical connection directly and inside of Eleven. It managed to create the psychic and physical bridge Vecna wanted to be able to accomplish his goal of getting her portal opening power. If you notice, when Vecna consumes his targets, he can manage to do this psychically. He's not physically present in Hawkins at all. Each time he killed and absorbed Fred, Chrissy, Patrick, or even Max, They were all physically in a psychic trance or form of seizure, while he projects himself into their mental scape from the upside down, which is in a different reality or layer of reality. It is reasonable then to understand how he could make the absorption of Eleven's powers quickly and easily, even though that creature that penetrated Eleven's body was removed. There was enough time for him to do what he needed to do through that creature and the hive mind that connected them. Who knows what Henry learned as Peter the Orderly while in Hawkins' lab before Eleven freed him. He had so many years, more than a decade. He was clever and manipulative, so he very well could have learned some of what Dr. Brenner discovered through him. Henry Creel was the first subject of Brenner's, after all, so he would have had a first-hand contact with some of the results of Brenner's studies when poking and prodding the young Henry. Alas, there you have it, neighbors. Henry Creel, aka Subject 001. Henry Creel, Peter Ballard, the Mind Flayer, and Vecna took Eleven's powers by experimenting with chemicals in organic biology of mice and men, after psychologically manipulating them into servitude, then suicide. He made them decompose and unite their remains together, sacrificing themselves to create a giant monster capable of not only attacking, but implanting another hive-minded creature, connecting himself physically and mentally with Eleven to block her of her usage of her powers, along with psychically absorbing them for himself. Essentially, Eleven was assaulted physically and psychologically in Stranger Things 3. And just as in the finale to Stranger Things 4, it initially seemed our big bad was defeated and his goals thwarted, yet in the end he got what he wanted, even if the circumstance didn't go down as preferred. Thank you all very much for continuing to visit us and see what weird and nerdy things we talk about and get up to. We really value your interest in our videos.
Subscribe if you haven't already. Write epic songs about this Alt+Shift+Nerd channel, paint portraits about Alt+Shift+Nerd, and promote us in art galleries. You know you're dying too. Our subscribers rock.